everybody to the Research Data Scotland User Forum. For those that don't know me, I'm Roger Halliday, and I am now full-time as the Chief Executive of Research Data Scotland, after using my role in Scottish Government as the Chief Statistician last month. So excited to be working full-time and to develop the service that we've got for access to data in the most helpful way. We need to do that in user-centered ways that can keep public support. And so giving a voice to users of what we're doing and how we do it is vital. And so I'm really pleased that so many people can join from Scotland and from wider. So thank you for doing so. Given the numbers, I just want to ask people to do a few things. Kind of, first of all, turn your mic off, and that, but today then is about getting your voice heard. So if you can use the chat function or put your hand up if you've got questions, and if you're not comfortable about asking questions in the chat, then feel free to email them to ian.green@researchdata.scot. Ian will put his email in the chat, and he will ask them on your behalf. And given the numbers, we might not get time to answer everyone's questions this afternoon, but so we'll try and endeavour to do so. But even if we don't, then we'll make sure that we get back to you in writing and try and publish a blog of what happens today. And if you need it, there are subtitles, I'm pretty sure, available in Teams. So plan for today is that I'll just do a wee update on where we're at the moment. But then we've got three main sections. So first of all, we're going to focus on public engagement and what we're doing to improve the way that we communicate to and hear from, and includes the views from the public in what we do, and use that to build and continue to engender trustworthiness in what we do. The second thing is walking through where we are on our service design and information governance and the changes that we're putting in there. And we'll finish off with an introduction to the Scottish medical imaging data and service, given that it's such a big development that's happened in the last wee while. And then, so there'll be a chance to ask questions at each stage, but like I say, just put any questions that you've got in the chat or email Ian, who can ask them. So we'll perhaps just start off with my intro. So I'll just share my screen. And just as a very quick reminder, first of all, can I just check that people can see that? Good. Yeah, as a quick reminder, so what our mission statement is, it's not it's to promote and advance health and social wellbeing in Scotland by enabling access to public sector data about people, places and businesses, and allowing that to be connected around a person, place or business. And that we're doing that through two things. One is spending time organising the data that already exists and making sure that it's findable and that it's pre-processed to make sure that we can connect that around a person, place or business, and then enable secure access to those data sets for research in the public good. Because in the core principles that we're working with here, that's the only time that we're going to make data available. While we can connect data around a person, place or business, no one will see the identities of those people or businesses. We're working entirely in a secure computing environments, and the only people that will be able to see that are qualified researchers, accredited researchers, and that will be user and problem led, and that while we're not in a position now of raising income, that any income that we get will be reinvested directly into the service or public sectors. We're set up as a charity to do so, and as part of that, we'll be open and transparent about all that we are doing, and finally, we'll work towards making sure that people have a choice to be excluded where that's relevant to do so. So, and then just the final sort of bit of reminder is where we're developing things. So the first thing that we're focused on, which is why Hugh and Alistair are going to be talking to us today, is our intentions to make the process of accessing data faster and simpler, and an improved user experience. And then, and only then, are we really then looking to widen the range of users and develop new services. And I suppose throughout that, we are looking to widen the range of data sets available, create new research assets where those can add real value. We'll talk about one of those in a minute, and maintain trustworthiness. So in the last 3 months, what have we been doing? So we've broadened the range of information that's available in our data catalogue. Now got over 70 data sets available. Jackie will talk more about the Scottish medical imaging data. We've at the last user forum in February, Alistair Rennie was talking about the changes that we're planning to make to information governance to try and simplify that process. And so we're pretty much there in terms of agreeing the operations of how that's going to work. I'll say something about the projects that we've got with that we're doing collaboratively with the regional safe havens. That we've started to do work now with the Office for National Statistics, and this is currently in the space of business data, getting a much better understanding, richer understanding of businesses in Scotland by linking up data that we hold here in Scottish Government and in agencies here with data that the Office for National Statistics hold, but really testing how can we federate the data between data that we hold securely here in Scotland and data that they hold securely in the Office for National Statistics, because they've got a whole range of data, not just business data, that can be incredibly useful. We've done quite a bit of recruitment, and we've got a number of people that are now in place in our data team. That I'll just say something in a second about what we're going to do, and that we've started developing public approaches to public engagement that Ian and Harriet will talk about, and to synthetic data, led here by Lynn Adair. And then over the next 3 months, so that new approach to information governance, we're actually going to just take that and start rolling that out. Are looking at well, Alistair and Hugh will talk about the changes that we're going to be making to the design of the service for researchers, and we're going to start to deliver that. I mentioned the synthetic data work. We're going to actually we have started to bring together a network of people and essentially work through the benefits that can give for researchers. The other things that I would probably pick out from this is that we're looking to all the way down towards the bottom, looking at further exemplar projects beyond the ONS business linkage and the equalities project that I'll say something about in a second, and start working on how do we bring together some new data sets So we're just going out and having conversations with a number of data owners and people looking to develop data in the kind of health space, in social care space, and in a few other places as well. And so, the particular one I was just going to focus on, because over the next few months we'll have a pilot data set in place, is around equalities. So what we've done is sort of recognize that the data that we have on equalities hasn't really been good enough up to now, but actually piecing data together from a range of different administrative and census data sources can make that better. And then actually, if we were able to put those data sets together, which is exactly what's happening at the moment, into a research data set, again, using those principles that I mentioned earlier on, so we don't know who any people are, but then if we can link that to a public sector organization's data, and we're expecting to work with organizations in the justice sector to test this out, will allow organizations that don't have fantastic data on equalities to significantly improve the ability for them to provide insight on the equality of, or fairness of access and of outcomes, and then help those organizations to provide more inclusive services. So we're at the stage now where we're going to be piloting this over the next few months, and we'll let you know how that goes. That seems like a really helpful data resource. And the regional work's moving at pace with our regional safe haven colleagues, signed a collaboration agreement at the beginning of the year to say that we'll work together wherever we can. And now we're turning that into specific programs of work. So 5 things that we're taking forward this year. So the first one is about aligning information governance. So it's really about understanding in the short term. We're just going to look at what the differences are in the ways that people access data in each of the 4 safe havens and a national safe haven in Scotland, and therefore from that looking at how we can the steps we can do on alignment. The second thing is around national labs data, and I think for significant parts of the research community, having a national lab data set will be a really helpful thing to do, and we're looking to develop that, building upon the work from the Health Informatics Centre in Dundee and others. The third thing is looking at actually do a cross safe haven project. So looking at doing one that involves Glasgow, Dundee and Grampian, and builds upon work that has already been taken forward as part of a programme called Dare UK, and really looking at some of the mechanics of what would have to happen to make cross safe haven working just much more standard and possible. The fourth thing is on synthetic data. Really, this is about developing approaches to creating useful synthetic data sets that are acceptable to data owners, and allow users to sort of instant access to develop a better understanding of the data sets, to formulate some of the asks that people might make of real data sets. So synthetic data sets are just sort of generated versions of real data sets that contain some of their properties. So it should allow researchers, to develop a better understanding of the data sets, formulate data asks, and then help develop code while the actual data is being asked for and going through that process. And so, we're just developing some approaches through that. And then the last thing is around data discovery, because there's differences in kind of how data's held in the different safe haven environments. So looking at how do we sort of map across that and enable alignment across the data in the different places. So this is really all about making sure that we're taking some practical steps to enable consistency of processes, improve the user experience, and get greater value from the data that we hold in different parts of Scotland. So those were some of the things that we've got happening just now. I just wanted to check. I'm very happy to take any questions on that before we get into some of the specifics for today. Can't see any hands up, and I can't see anyone putting anything in the chat yet. So feel free to do so as we go through. But let's get on to the main body of today, and we'll start with Ian and Harriet talking about our approach to public engagement.
Thanks, Roger, for that. Hopefully everyone can see the slide presentation there. I'm going to be doing this with Harriet, so don't be surprised if Harriet interrupts me if I get anything wrong. But yeah, really to look at what we're doing in terms of public engagement in Scotland, how we're going to engage public trust on research and data. So one for the geeks, who watches the Watchmen. I'm really taking this as a metaphor, really, of what we're about. This is about, in the UK, we're policed by consent, and I think I'm reflecting on that in terms of how we deal with data as researchers and as research custodians. What we do is all based on the public trust, and we need to engage the public to ensure that we maintain that trust. So what is public engagement? Well, you can read it. This is the definition by the National Coordinating Centre for Public Engagement. It basically describes all the different ways in which an activity and the benefits of data and research can be shared with the public. And engagement is very much a two-way process. It involves interaction and listening, and actually acting on the feedback we get from the public, so that we can actually generate some mutual benefit and some genuine societal changes. So why is public engagement important? It was very much at the heart of Research Data Scotland's mission statement, is to harness the potential of data for research in the public interest. But the main point here, this is the data that belongs to the public. So we have a duty to engage the public in how and why their data is used, and come to an understanding of the public's concerns that will help shape the research to address these. Is essential, really, for maximising the public benefit of data research. So some of the headlines that we've seen in the press, it doesn't take a genius to work out that most of these are from the Daily Mail, but clearly there is a media agenda out there regarding how researchers access and use the public's data. So I'll hand up to Harry on this one, because Harry's been involved with a public dialogue that Dare UK have been engaging with the public. So Harriet, do you want to take this over?
Thanks very much, Ian. To continue with what Ian was saying, obviously there's lots of different ways we can engage the public, and one of those ways is a public dialogue. And recently Dare UK, HDR UK and ADR UK, all the UKs, have collaborated together to do a big public dialogue on building a trustworthy national infrastructure. I was actually part of the oversight board, and some of my ADR Scotland colleagues were involved. And I think it's just, really good for different data centres such as this to think about the ways that public do feel about data research. And I think the dialogue was really productive and really interesting. And it certainly brought up lots of recommendations. There's a link on the slides, but I'll also put it in the chat so you can read the full dialogue. But the reassuring thing is most people do feel confident about how their research, how data is used for research, but it does involve engagement. It's when they've actually had some time to understand it, to have it explained to them, and so forth. And obviously a crucial thing is that they know, the public know, that it is stored safely, that there are secure processes, and that those things are, fully implemented. If you could go to the next slide. Thanks, Ian. So there are lots of interesting findings and recommendations. There was some appetite for commercial organisations to use data, but always in the public benefit. And I think we often use the phrase public benefit and public good, but perhaps that needs a bit more unpacking to make sure that we are doing what the public think public good is. I was certainly in a group that was surprised about how long it took to get the data, and they kind of understood that actually long data delays does mean that some research that could be helpful and help the public might not be as useful as it was if it takes a really long time. But there was certainly appetite for more awareness and a real understanding about what's being done with data. And so I think I'll end with the kind of key recommendation messages, which are around not just transparency and trustworthiness, but proactive transparency and trustworthiness, and actually awareness raising, kind of bigger initiatives. It's unlikely that people will just stumble across our websites and read our public information pages. There needs to be a certain amount of proactivity within the communities, especially less heard communities. And because this was from Dare UK, another key message was about how all of the UK national data infrastructure can work together and can become more standardised, more joined up, because I think as part of the dialogue, people were surprised that there were different approaches, lots of different data services and providers. And I guess there was a sense of uncertainty then about, why is it a bit different in Scotland compared to Wales, or is this relevant to that nation, and so forth. So I think there was a real message coming through in the recommendations about how we communicate to the public as well, about where data is available, how it can be standardised and centralised, and how it can be unified as best as possible so that people don't have to understand lots of different things. They can generally understand that data is dealt with in a certain way. So that's enough for Dare UK for now, but I'll pop that the link of the report in the chat.
Thanks, Harriet. So RDS and public engagement. We must provide clear explanations on how and why data is gathered, stored, shared and used. We're now seeking to embed public engagement across the data network in Scotland by sharing insights and avoiding costly duplications of activities among other partners. There's a lot of data sets out there in Scotland. Not of them are all joined up. But we do think it's important that we have a unified view on how we engage with the public and how we go about doing that. And that's why we're developing a range of activities to enable the public to influence the way we work. So they will actually be shaping our business model to a certain extent and how we engage with the public. Our aims and objectives, it's about engendering trustworthiness by listening and responding to the public's views on how Scottish data is used, demonstrating the public benefit, i.e. showing the public benefits of data usage, the outcomes of the research used from the data, is creating some sort of societal change, or as we mentioned earlier, delivering a public benefit. It's about garnering public support for the work that we deliver, and it's about innovation, addressing the major societal challenges that Scotland has ahead in the future and how data research can inform that. And enlightenment, showing how research can actually improve people's lives. We've got a set of sort of public engagement principles in place. These are embedded on the website and in our strategy document. It's meaningful engagement, a two-way conversation, accountability, inclusivity, transparency, and collaboration. So what do we mean by that? Meaningful engagement is about using the appropriate methods to engage the public That's vital, as is evaluating and adapting the approaches to ensure that they're effective and address the views of the public. It's a two-way conversation, so we've got to take a dialogue-based approach to listening and responding to public views regarding our work, while enabling our researchers to gain new insights and ideas to develop more impactful research. It's about accountability. It's important that we not only listen to the public, but act on what they tell us. Ensuring there are appropriate mechanisms for feeding and finding the findings of our public engagement into the work is essential. And inclusivity. The voices we hear via public engagement should be inclusive. So it's about engaging with a diverse range of voices across the different communities and identities, and adapting our approaches to reduce any barriers to engagement is going to be crucial to this. Transparency, it's telling the public about our engagement. How we're implementing its findings is essential for demonstrating trustworthiness. And it's about a regular open communication about our work, which is clear and accessible to the diverse audiences we're going to be working with. And collaboration, this is about working with the partners around Scotland and across the UK and sharing our learning to ensure that the greatest value comes from our public engagement. So we're seeking to demonstrate that the public services in Scotland are trustworthy, respect privacy, are open and honest in the way that data is being used. Communicating our public engagement, we're currently working with the public on a section on the research data website. We'll have a clear description on governance and security. We'll be using various forms of media, from blogs, news, videos, infographics on key milestones that we're achieving on our public engagement, case studies and results of the engagement, and all the outputs are going to be shared with panel members in the larger public dialogue through the media. So the current landscape in Scotland is, you can see there on public dialogue on data, but the most active one, I suppose, is ADR Scotland. So we're going to hand over to Harriet now, so she can just talk through some of the work that ADR Scotland have been doing in the public engagement arena.
Thanks, Ian. Very kind. I think we're part of a bigger initiative across the UK, so we have quite a lot of investment in public engagement. So ADR Scotland is part of ADR UK, funded by ESRC, and we're lucky that we have a public engagement steering group, so with partners from across the UK and different specialists like myself. And we've developed a public engagement strategy. And I think it's such an important part of our work that we remember why we're doing data research, and that we're listening and interacting with people whose ultimately data it is. So I guess we're lucky that we're part of a bigger thing, and we really do have a strategy in place. We've had for many years now a public panel, which I know Research Data Scotland have presented at various times. And the public panel is a small panel, but it listens to the opinions of the public in Scotland across data linkage projects, not only within the ADR UK remit, but across Scotland. And it's a fantastic resource for kind of getting feedback, interacting with the public, and reminding ourselves again of why we're doing it and how we can maximise the benefit of our work, and also how we can communicate it effectively to different audiences. So making it less technical, making it more useful, for example, for policy or for the public to understand. So that panel's been running for a while now, and we're obviously looking at different ways we can collaborate with other partners in the future to make these kind of panels sustainable, but also so that we don't have lots of different data panels, but perhaps finding ways to kind of collaborate and, enhance them and make them a bit larger. We're also doing an exciting public engagement pilot at the moment in ADR Scotland around children and young people. We have a large strand of work about children's data, And obviously our public panel are adults. So we've been doing a project in collaboration with children in Scotland to find out more about how children and young people feel about the admin data, how they'd like to be communicated with, how they understand these things. And our report for this project is due soon. So look out on the SCADA website, and hopefully we can share via different channels. But we're really excited to kind of develop our work around children's engagement and share the learning from this, because it's a very different audience and, you know, a very different level of understanding. And I think it's really important that they're engaged and involved in children's data work, and we hope that it will inform our approach going forward for all of our children's research projects. And finally, I think I touched upon it earlier, we often say that the work we're doing is in the public good, but perhaps it's a little overused in some ways, and we often justify that, you know, projects are for the public good. But what does this mean? And, you know, how can we focus this and better understand this? And do the public think that the same as we do? So ADI UK are currently collaborating with the UK Stats Authority to do a public dialogue on this very subject. I think recruitment and different things are happening at the moment, and findings are planned for the early autumn, so September time. And I think that will be a really exciting public dialogue for us to better understand, but also to be able to better articulate what we mean by public good and public benefit, so that we can really actually articulate that to different audiences and make it as meaningful as possible and as meaningful a phrase as possible. So look forward to sharing the results and findings from these various different initiatives. And yeah, I'll put some things in the chat so that you can follow some of this work. But yeah, we're really excited to be doing it, and obviously working with different partners across Scotland on developing different ways to engage the public with data research, because we're all aiming for the same thing, to kind of increase awareness, transparency and understanding of secure data use for public good. So that's just a little bit about what we're doing. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Harriet. Yeah, so at the moment we're working alongside the Data Intelligence Network in Scotland. They're in the process of commissioning a pilot public engagement panel. This will be rolling out over the next couple of weeks, but it's very much a pilot, and the function of that is to test and learn the project. And the findings that will come out of that test and learn process will really inform a range of data research projects, as well as offering an opportunity to apply scrutiny to the policy and decision making. But as a result of that pilot, we'll probably use that as the model going forward to create an ODS, Scottish-wide public engagement panel. The pilot panel outputs, we're anticipating the appointed dialogue contractor will deliver the following outputs. It's going to be designing and facilitation of the events, launching with a network to raise awareness of the panel and its benefits, short summaries of public feedback on each future project, and an overall report on the process, findings on past projects and learning for future projects. So, and a report on the options for sustainable panel infrastructure that can be used for future projects going forward. So basically, that process will, at the end of it, put in place a model that we can adapt and take forward into the future. It is going to be a dialogue, so people in the meeting here today, I do hope you can get involved. If you would like to get involved, do email us at info@researchdata.scot and to hear what you have to say. And that's it. Thank you for your time. I'll hand over back to Roger.
Thank you. And yeah, this is such important stuff to make sure that through everything that we do, that we've got a public engagement component to it. So thanks to Harriet and Ian for helping with that. So just having a look at I think there's a couple of comments that have come in from people, which is always very helpful. Thank you. Cool. Well, let's let's move on, unless anybody wants to come in with a particular comment or question. See any hands up? So let's move on to our new service and kind of the design of that service and the information governance that needs to be around that. So we've been talking about this for some time. We're about to move into delivery, and to tell you a bit more about that, we've got Hugh and Alistair with us today.
Thanks, Roger. So just to kind of say what we're about to talk through, I will just go over a few slides about the development of our digital services, and then we'll hand over to Alistair, who's going to talk about user awareness materials for research. And maybe if we kind of save any questions that you have, or we can follow any questions at the end of both of those. But I shall attempt to share my screen now. Always most tense moment. So hopefully people can see the screen. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, I'm going to talk about developing our digital services. As Roger mentioned, this is something that we're really kind of getting a bit of momentum behind just now. And there's lots of work underway or about to become underway in the next few months. So hopefully I can get my screen to work. Everybody is feeling lucky. So for those of you who attended the previous user forum, you'll know that a lot of work's already been done on helping to define the sort of tools and services that Research Data Scotland wants to put in place. We've been through various agile phases over the last 12 to 18 months. We've done some prototyping, and we've really tried hard to develop an understanding of our user base and the landscape in which we're working. And that's helped to define a journey map of how our service could look in the fullness of time. So these slides, which were discussed at the last user forum by Ernesta, kind of show some of the key stages that a researcher might take in terms of accessing data via Research Data Scotland and via a future service offering. And this kind of shows the different stages that you might pass through in terms of your data access journey. From the perspective of kind of where we are now, we're kind of commencing a few different work streams on the back of the previous phases of work. That includes things like growing the team, so bringing in additional subject matter expertise, and looking to establish where we still may have some gaps in terms of the resources we have. Roger mentioned there's kind of recruitment happening at the moment, so we're filling out the team as we go, and we'll be looking to bring in kind of people and potentially third parties to help in terms of our service delivery. We've been kind of having an ongoing in-depth consultation with the different partners that are involved in Research Data Scotland. That's both in terms of the access to data, but also the potential technology partners that may be part of the service delivery as it will continue. And we've been doing more process mapping to understand kind of more fully some of the as-is processes that are being undertaken, particularly around access to data, and helping to translate those into kind of the future service to be. As I mentioned, lots of potential technology solutions, lots of interesting work happening in this area, both within Scotland and at the UK level, and indeed internationally. So that's kind of helping us kind of understand what some of our deliverables might look like, and forming some of the initial options appraisals that we're undertaking at the moment. We've kind of been refining our approach, because I think as we've kind of come together, as more people have joined Research Data Scotland, as Roger's kind of come on board full time as our chief executive, we need to kind of ensure there's clarity across the work we're doing, and that's both from the internal team perspective and for our partners and potential partners. And now that we have a strategy and plan in place, making sure that we are embedding the values and principles into all the work that we do. So in terms of delivery planning at the moment, we're trying to map all of the current work that we're undertaking and the proposed activities, and theming what we're doing to make it a bit easier to understand what's across the different work streams. We'll talk a lot, I think, at every forum. This is a user forum after all, that making sure that we continue to design with and not for the users of our services. For those of you that are familiar with Scottish Government's Scottish approach to service design, that's a really important principle that kind of goes across hopefully all the service design that's now being undertaken in the public sector. So that's very much what we are trying to do in terms of our own position. The themes that I've just mentioned, there's quite a lot of words in this slide, so I'm not going to read through everything. But these are kind of the 8 areas that we're doing some kind of important next stage work on. Previously, we talked about the different solutions that we were working on in the back of the previous phases of work, and we're just kind of breaking those down a little bit to kind of formulate some slightly more intuitive work streams and put the rest of the resources and processes in and around that. So a lot of the focus is going to be on things like the end user journey, the information governance, the guidance and support, and particularly the data provision and supporting technology. And as I mentioned, the kind of the delivery planning that we're looking at is trying to make sure that we have got a program of work that makes sense. All of that will help us move towards a roadmap, I guess the holy grail of the work that we're doing at the moment. So really trying to kind of get our focus and make sure that we've got the right tools in place and developing something that gives a good understanding of the work that's going to be happening. So that includes the planning activity to establish specific demonstrator projects. Again, Roger referenced some of those, and that's really to help get delivery underway and an authenticator approach. And that's going to be happening alongside consultation and appraisal activities. And that will really help inform our future product offer. We really want to kind of get this backbone in place and help define what our minimum viable service will look like. What can we do in the kind of first instance that will help prove and improve our approach, and thinking about then what the next steps would be to focus on different areas of that service to, I guess, make it more enterprise ready. So part of that is about capturing resource requirements, dependencies, and key milestones. And we know that's critical because we are working in partnership with lots of different organisations. So we need to be clear really what the ask is from Research Data Scotland to make sure that we are not putting too much pressure on already very busy individuals in different organisations at key times. And all of this is kind of underpinned by an agile approach, and that's both, from a methodology perspective, how would we expect to be doing quite a lot of the actual development work, but really wanting to make sure that we're flexible, adaptable, that we're iterating as we go, not making too many assumptions as we go, and testing and learning. So really just trying to embed that approach across the whole organisation. What that might look like in terms of tangible stuff. There's some work that we're just kind of looking at the moment in terms of the overall user experience and user interface design. There's things like the design and development of the website to be both a communications vehicle, but really the starting point for the services that we will be offering. There's things like our metadata search, which is already in place, but how we develop the user interface with that and how we get more metadata into that search, and how case management is going to happen. So how people will be able to apply for, track, and complete applications for data sets and then have those securely delivered. Leading into each of those, there are key milestones and key activities that will have to be taking place. And the 3 boxes at the bottom, kind of underpinning ongoing things in terms of the data provision, the information governance, and the technical strategy. I should have said we'll make these slides available so people can see for themselves and read all the words on the page as I go through them. From an information governance perspective, Alistair's going to talk in more detail about this when he is going through his slides. But from RDS's perspective, we're contributing to a UK-wide initiative which is led by HDR UK, where we're looking to align the IG approaches across lots of organisations. So that includes health boards, local authorities, statistics providers. And in Scotland, we're working with Scottish Government, and that will be kind of to help define codes of practice and focus on things like privacy by design and development of common policies and sharing agreements. And we're looking to recruit additional resources to help with the ongoing IG pieces of work that will be fundamental to our approach as we continue to evolve. Very common message here in terms of what Ian and Harriet have said. I kind of, to round things off, really wanted to do two things. And one is to just offer a huge thank you to everyone who's helped us to get where we are so far, because there's an awful lot of input that's happened over the last couple of years to make us, to kind of set us on our track and make sure that we are delivering the right things. But you'll see by the kind of the headings on this slide, there's lots more to happen, and these are just some of the areas that we're kind of going to be looking for additional user input for people who are undertaking research or may have an interest in contributing to the knowledge behind some of these things. So we're very much trying to widen the pool of volunteers and carry out further user research. So again, you've got the info@researchdata.scot address. We're looking to kind of get a panel in place and kind of set out some key tasks over the next 12 months to help inform our services, to help understand more about how people are accessing data, to help usability test some of the digital services that we put in place. So really asking for people to get in touch and say whether they are willing to come on board and help us design the services as we go. So with that, I shall pause and hand over to Ian. Not Ian, Alistair. Apologies, Alistair.
Thank you very much, Hugh. And yes, it's an interesting lead into the information governance and the work that's been done, led by Health and Social Care in Scotland. And it's part of a framework of improving information governance across the UK. So we're working very closely with ONS, with HDR, with the regional safe havens, as well as with Health and Social Care in Scottish Government, and with the data team in Scottish Government, looking at how managing information governance helps support the other initiatives that we're looking at and improving access to data. A key part of this is input from researchers. So work has been ongoing to look at information governance from a perspective of researchers. So I'm just going to share some slides. So I will be quite honest, I did not do all of this work. This was done by Health and Social Care, and therefore I will say that quite openly that I'm presenting this on behalf of Elena Berretarbeid, who's Head of Information Assurance and Risk in Health and Social Care. So, but we're collaborating very closely with Elena's team and with the other teams to provide an aligned information governance framework within Scotland and within the UK. And part of this is about people, and it's about our need to help research community become much more confident in the understanding of information governance, understanding the skills, the professional development, the career progression that is undergoing within the research community, and how we can support that, but also support access to information. So the National IG programme has come out of work that started before COVID. There was an information governance review across Health and Social Care. The reality, of course, was that had more input from health than on the care side of things, but that was as much due to readiness at the time, due to availability of people, and the approach that was being taken was really focusing on as much as it could with the resources available. It was an extensive multi-stakeholder consultation process that involved over 100 interviews across health and social care in Scotland, and a network of experts from Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland, and the Republic of Ireland all contributed to this. We needed to review the information governance because the people of Scotland, including citizens, health, care practitioners, academia, innovators, including the research community, expressed their expectations about data, about digital technologies, and about privacy very clearly. They all said that they expected and continue to expect technology and information systems to be a part of how health and social care services are delivered, and for that to be seamless and almost invisible part of the process, and therefore fundamental that we do something about the information governance. So to enable this, Scotland needs a streamlined national information governance approach, and that's got to address the inconsistencies in decisions over the delivery, the use of data and digital technologies, the variation in interpretations of current regulations and in guidance that's coming out from ICO and other parties, the risk appetite amongst organisations, and that can obstruct or facilitate the realisation of benefits from digital and data-driven health, social care innovation, but also across the wider research community and the wider benefits within the whole of the Scottish public sector. And that includes research and business as usual health and care activities as well. So the National IG Review was one of our key IG and assurance building blocks on the digital health and care strategy. It identified 12 key recommendations in 3 main areas. So national leadership, people, processes, tools, and products. And products in this case meaning the data and the digital assets that we have. And then the demonstration of success and assurance. There is a summary report available in the link that's on the slides, and these will be provided when we send them out to the summary report. In the green section, you can see here, there's an area of lead and steer. So the National IG programme is one of the main actions in the green set of recommendations. The programme is meant to align relevant strategies at data and digital, strengthening the IG ambition to maximise the realisation of benefits from digital and data-driven health and care. And that includes innovation and research. And therefore, we want to make sure that we're promoting, helping, supporting access to data, access to that innovation that supports that. The National IG programme is also looking to create a more balanced federated IG model. That's where local decisions over data and digital access to information are better balanced with decisions that benefit from a national approach. So, for example, over data or digital assets of national value. So establishing a federated decluttered IG model would allow autonomous data controllers and various central structures to collaborate to meet the needs of the wider health and care community, the wider research community. Data controllers would also have more influence in the large-scale data processing decisions through their participation in the various IG groups. And part of what we're looking to do within RDS is work with the data controllers and with the various approval bodies within Scottish public sector to look at how we scale up the access to information in a way that makes sense, but streamlined and aligned across the UK. So, showing in the green set of recommendations, they also involve engagement much more effectively with stakeholders, and that includes researchers, innovators, academia, and the public. So for the co-production of the IG solutions, as well as raising awareness and understanding of what IG is, or what it isn't, and much more than the compliance and privacy. So Scottish approach to service design and some IG maturity modelling that can help us improve collectively. So we've been looking at things like the ARMA model and COBIT from trying to get a maturity modelling review of information governance, and that's a tool that will be able to help move the needle on information governance and how people understand it. the blue section's about applying that innovation to information governance and to co-producing solutions for the IG challenges and scaling up that works well. So, for example, empowering people to feel confident with whatever they need to do with data and digital, recognizing the variety of roles, skills, experience required. As I mentioned earlier, what about career progressions, career pathways? What about CPD? These are important, and also if we can support that is a really good outcome. So that applies to everybody who's exposed to health and care data or digital data. In essence, really everybody who touches these processes. But we've got to improve the IG process and structures, have the right tools for each task, and better accessibility to data and digital assets, particularly those of national value, but not only those. Particularly when we're working with regional safe havens, there are data sets that are local and specific, but which are of value for research purposes elsewhere. In the pink section, set out recommendations that are about demonstrating the success and assurance. So some volunteer organisations are going to be testing some of the IG maturity models, the ARBA, COBIT, etc. And that includes health boards, safe havens, care sector practitioners. And we're looking at setting improvement plans and monitoring progress. So we want to know that we're actually doing better. It's really important that we can actually monitor that progress. And that will provide an assurance across the whole of the stakeholders that, and for the public, to be honest, that we're actually moving this, we're raising confidence, we're raising trust, and we're easing the IG barriers that are perceived, that are seen, and that are causing problems in the access to data that we have. So the 12 recommendations in the IG report have been transposed into these 6 key goals in the National IG programme, and these map very closely to the work that Hugh was talking about earlier in terms of the work that RDS is doing. So we need to co-produce solutions from the information governance challenges in these 6 areas with the stakeholders. So that's work that will be continuing and engaging a wide range of organisations and users, and that involves hopefully people that are involved in this user forum as well. We need to engage with our researchers to make sure that we're actually doing the right things and we're actually moving the needle in the right way. So this goes right across the board with the HDR Alliance, with HIC, NES, Public Health Scotland, National Scottish Services, etc. Way across the board to get a good vision on what's going forward. So, for clarity, when we refer to information governance, we actually mean the decision-making and management of data and information technologies. Now, most of those are digital, and we're moving closer and closer to digital. And the work that Hugh was talking about earlier, hopefully will continue that approach to get us to a really good digitally aligned solution for access to data. But this means that we have to solve the issues about privacy, confidentiality, cybersecurity, digital and data quality, integrity. So information governance is not just about privacy. It's actually about a very wide range of aspects of data and data transformation. So to achieve the goals, we use the inertia momentum created by COVID, because that has generated a huge inertia into openness and access to data, and that will help move us forward with the idea that IG is a barrier, but actually can be a facilitator. The National IG programme is, above all, I guess, a continuous improvement approach from IG for across health and social care, as well as across the rest of public sector in Scotland. So there's a number of engagement areas that we're looking for as people going forward. So we're scaling up the IG authority model that was used during COVID. It worked well, and we're looking at how we can use this for the national IG body as an interim measure. So England, Wales, Ireland have already created or are in the process of creating creating national IG bodies for various functions, and we want to do the same in Scotland. Mainly a proposal, this is a more mature IG process across health and social care ecosystem, but across all of health, all of data access in Scotland. It's mainly a proposal to ensure that stakeholders adopt the IG majority model, and it's actually useful, and we can actually make use of that in understanding what information governance is and how we can make that work for ourselves. So we're working, as I say, we're working across the whole of the IG field with HDR, with the regional safe havens, with Scottish Government, Health and Social Care to work in this. So these slides, these next few sets of slides are just showing an area where people can get involved with the work we're doing and engage with the processes. So NES has been commissioned to help understanding some of the key roles and responsibilities that are required for people to feel confident with whatever role they play, creating training sets and education sets for the information governance that will be available, that we can help get people to understand specifically what the information governance ask is and what that really means. So we've created a set of tools, a set of processes that will move the maturity model up to the everybody can be trusted end. That's the key. We want people to feel that they're trusted researchers and that the access to data can be eased as best we possibly can. The right tools for the right task. It's a difficult one because there are a number of really quite complex concepts around information governance, as I mentioned earlier, particularly around the confidentiality, the access to data. But that understanding means that we have to have digital systems that are able to support the decision making, able to support the access to data in a way that makes sense. So we've got good decision-making tool sets as we move forward. And then the last bit is really making sure that we get the enhanced transparency and trust, and that's through the transformation that we're taking part in. So part of this, a key focus on this, is public engagement. We want the public to fully understand what we do with digital, with data and with digital transformation. They can participate in any meaningful way, right from the start of the decision-making process through to the end, and make sure that we have a clear definition and understanding of what those programs are and how we're moving the needle. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Let's see the question from Carol Sinclair in the chat. How does a balanced federated national IG model sit alongside or better enable the data sharing or intra-records that we have across the NHS Scotland and across local authorities and the NHS? I don't know whether you know the answer to that. We'll come back to Carol.
I can certainly answer that. Do you want to say any more about that, Carol?
I've been mentioning, sorry, Carol Sinclair, Chief Officer, Public Health Scotland. I've been mentioning this off and on for some time about have we really optimised the impact of these data sharing intra-accords? I think probably the answer is better, yes, in the NHS, but of limited impact or success across local authority. And I'm not even sure we've got 32 signatures yet, to be honest. It would just feel disappointing, I suppose would be the word, if we didn't take full value from a federated national IG model or approach to make sure that we liberate the impact or the power of these intra-accords in a way that we've not yet been able to achieve.
Yeah, so I think the clear answer, Carol, is that we are very keen to build on these accords and to work across not just across Scotland, but across the UK on improving the understanding about the whole IG framework. We're looking to create codes of practice for privacy by design and for the understanding of policy for information governance. So those are coming not just from within Scotland, but across the UK. So the HDR Alliance Information Governance National Steering Group, again, is looking to support an alignment across all of the information governance frameworks, and therefore that hopefully will look at how the federation, particularly the work we're trying to do with the regional safe havens, in federating data sets between the regional safe havens and between the TREs. So in Scotland, we're looking at the regional safe havens, but within HDR Alliance, we're looking at that within the TREs themselves, across the wider TREs, including local authorities and other elements of public sector. So the approach is not going to be a fast one, but it's one where we're continually reviewing what the information governance approaches are going to be, and how we get those alignments sorted out and we get the agreements in place, starting with national template agreements that we can use to help get us that standardisation in terms of process as we go forward.
Thanks very much, Alistair. Really enjoyed your presentation, so thank you.
It's a good point, and for us to think about further, Carol. So thanks for raising it. Okay, well, let's move on if there are no other questions to the final part of today, which is around Scottish medical imaging data. Welcome, Jackie, and congratulations on the work that you've been leading.
If somebody can let me present, then that would be fine. And if somebody can't let me present, then Ian, could you present the animation, please? So while we just sort out amongst ourselves what's going to go on, we thought that rather than starting off by yet more PowerPoint slides, fascinating though most of the speakers have been so far, we thought we would share our SMI animation, which we intend to have on our website, and also eventually playing in radiology departments within the NHS, where images are captured. So thanks, Ian. Can I just say, before Ian presses play, please peel your eyes and watch very carefully. So thanks, Ian.
How observant do you think you are? We're going to flick through several images at the same rate a radiologist would look at a CT scan. Your job is to count the number of green dots that appear. Okay, how many did you count? Did you spot the gorilla at the bottom left of the screen? We'll play it again and see if you can spot it this time. See it this time? We've all missed something that's been right in front of our eyes, just because it wasn't what we were looking for. Between March 2017 and April 2018, over 3.5 million radiological examinations were carried out in Scotland. Take just one of those scans, say a CT scan. It doesn't matter what it was taken for. It could potentially show signs of lung cancer, emphysema, airways disease, coronary artery disease, or systemic inflation. The problem is there are so many constraints on radiologists' time and too much extra searching for them to do. Computers, specifically AI, can help us reduce this burden and help radiologists spot potential issues. But AI needs to be trained to spot the problems, and right now it's usually only trained with data from a small number of consenting patients. Since 2006, over 3 million examinations have been conducted and then stored in the National PACS system. This is the sort of data we need to train the AI, but it is full of private and personal information. Enter Scottish Medical Imaging, or SMI for short. This initiative has made a research copy of the PACS database and a system for extracting and anonymizing data. The data is held securely and can be accessed for research, but it can't be removed. These large-scale, real-world images are now available to train our AI. SMI aims to enable research that works to improve your healthcare while keeping your data safe.
What it was trying to set the scene was about the number of images that are taken day in, day out within the NHS, and they're held in a system called National PACS, Picture Archiving and Communication System. And what SMI has done is to gain permission to take a copy of National PACS, hold it in the National Safe Haven, and work on de-identifying all the different modalities and the structured reports, which are the radiologist's textual opinion of what the images are showing them. And what we're doing is making them available for making them research ready in a way that can be linked to other health data or other administrative data. And I'll pass over to my colleague Rob now, who will take you through our short presentation. Thanks, Rob.
Can people see the slides? Yeah.
Yep, we can see them.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So I'll give a brief presentation about the Scottish Medical Imaging Service. This is the new addition to the IDRIS toolkit. So I guess before going into more detail about the capabilities of the new service, I'll just give a quick summary on who IDRIS are. So we are the Electronic Data Research and Innovation Service, which is a Public Health Scotland service providing coordination and expert advice to support researchers wishing to work with health, social and administrative data. Essentially, we provide a single entry point, and that's end-to-end support for researchers looking to access healthcare data in Scotland. We don't do this alone. We have some key stakeholders. We work with our partners in Public Health Scotland, who can provide research coordination, data provisioning and data analysis services, National Records Scotland, who can provide data linkage services, but with RDS, as we're seeing here, the partnerships and the additional linkage and networking with other research bodies in the Scottish Government, and of course Edinburgh University, who provide us with the IT environment for the National Safe Haven. In addition to our research community, we have key customer groups in the Scottish Government, HDR UK, and with ADR. Now, what are medical images? The video that we've seen but not heard does point out that there are millions of images taken throughout Scotland for clinical treatment and diagnostic purposes, and these are all stored within the National Imaging Database. Now, these images are taken to provide healthcare for the patients involved. They also contain a great deal of potential information about the health of the individuals, and this is currently not made use of. So, should say as well as the actual pixel data, which does contain further information which could be used for incidental diagnosis. There is also a wealth of information contained within the imaging metadata, which can be linked up with other healthcare data for a more traditional data science approach. And of course, by having a large database of pixel image data sets, we can enable machine learning to take place. And the SMI service has been set up to try and simplify and declutter access to these images. And again, it's to provide this single point of access user journey, regardless of the type of imaging data that is requested, and to simplify how this will work in and link with the wider imaging structure. So SMI was started as a partnership between IDRIS, the Health Informatics Centre at Dundee, and the EPCC at the University of Edinburgh, and they collaborated by taking a research-ready copy of the National PACS database, and this is taken from the whole Scottish population and started in 2010. This data set is hosted within the National Safe Haven, and the SMI service was developed in order to manage this data, enable linkage of this data to other health data sets, to enable extraction and pseudonymized copies of this information available to researchers, and ensuring that suitable governance procedures can be followed. The programme's overall aim is to provide linkable, population-based, research-ready, real-world medical images for researchers, and that's to researchers to provide not just for AI algorithms, but also for more traditional research projects. So this began in 2019 with the creation of the minimal viable product. And this went on to take into a minimal viable service and followed on the time catalogue, as you can see up on the screen. Once we began to launch the minimal viable service, this allowed methods to de-identify and pseudonymize the data. And then once we went through the beta phase, we could work further with research partners and to develop some exemplar projects in order to further develop this service. I should state that we are a fledgling service. We launched last month, but we are still building this service up. The imaging data sets are large, and the provision of machine learning environments in a secure manner is a challenge. So we are still working to increase our technical capabilities and our ability to link further with the research community. But as we have launched, the stages we went through in order to ensure that we were ready for launch, we wanted to have delivery of data to key research projects. We wanted to make sure we had an overarching strategy that was in line with our partner institutions, to ensure that we had sufficient infrastructure to cope with things in a business as usual manner, and that we had a platform that could work with the technical demands of delivering such a service. And what we have available at the moment from launch is years of data from 2010, the beginning of 2010 to the end of 2017, and that is a lot of data. We have modalities that are available are CT, MRI, PET, and nuclear medicine, and interestingly, we also have the structured reports. And to deliver these, we had to develop and expand on the use of NLP in order to not only redact and de-identify the reports, we've also got a cataloguing feature which allows us to use the reports in order to build cohorts and to search through them dynamically. We've got 2 research environments that are available. The more traditional one that's similar to the main things provided by Idris. And this is a Windows-based environment where you can have access to traditional Windows tools and some statistics package, but also the data science environment, which uses a project private zone. And this is a solution that enables researchers to bring their own software into the safe haven and ensure that they can run this in a secure and safe manner by isolating it from the rest of the environment. And this is where machine learning projects can be run. This runs on Linux. You have access to Python, GPU facilities, and more advanced icon viewers along with their existing software. We're continuing to work to expand the capabilities offered by the service. The next things in our pipeline is the ongoing ingest of near live image data. We will probably accompany this with a lift and shift to bring us up to date, and then a continuous update of data. And we want to expand the modalities that are offered, which will primarily, the initial focus will be on bringing digital radiographs in. So along with the more traditional x-rays, we also want to bring in panoramic x-rays and the oral x-rays taken at dental hospitals. So yeah, thank you very much. Any questions?
That's great. Lots of clear and helpful information in there. Carol, do you want to come in?
Yeah, so I had the pleasure of on a couple of occasions chairing the group that was tasked with taking this forward, and I just want to congratulate Jackie and Robert. It's such a success story. Lots of lessons learned along the way. For those who may be curious as to what you might feel is a constrained end user community, being researchers and Scottish Government, we debated long and hard how and when and how soon we could move out into a wider engagement process around industry partners, for example. The ambition remains, however, we felt that we needed to build the use case sort of suite or case studies to make sure that we could demonstrate the value add of coming to Scotland in a way that we wouldn't be able to do just yet. So I just wanted people to be clear that the ambition is there and we will respond to it, and we will look at accelerating that development as and when we can with the MVP.
I mean, and that sounds absolutely the right thing direction to be heading in, and the pace at which that's manageable, and given the expertise that you need to understand and advise and make the most of this data. So fantastic stuff. I can't see any other comments in the chat, so yeah, I will just give it one last sort of ask if anybody's got any questions that we've raised as we've talked today about our approach to public engagement, our service design and information governance, and on sort of new data that's available, like the medical imaging data. Is there any sort of final questions that people have just before we finish? Well, thank you very much for attending, and we'll be, as Hugh said, really keen to follow up and make sure that we've got a representative sort of panel of users that can help us steer what we're doing in ways that actually will make things faster, simpler, and with a better experience for you as users of research data, enabling you to go out and find new insights and save time, money, and lives. So thanks very much for your contributions today, and we'll catch up very soon. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.